Hello everybody, welcome back to this channel. um, it's Friday. Tomorrow I'm going to go on a camping trip, an overnighter with a friend of mine. We're going to do some bushcraft training, this kind of stuff. Expect some rain. It's been raining today, this week. Yesterday was a little bit better, but today it's quite gray out, so don't expect the best of weather, but anyway, plan on making some videos while I'm out there also. Some shelter building, this kind of stuff. I wanted to talk to you about something quite funny. When I was in the Army, I got in an accident in Germany. And some friends of mine probably remember this. I dislocated my shoulder. And it was one night I was at a girlfriend's house and on a bicycle, a friend of mine, Scott. And I was coming down the hill from her house, and a drunk driver pulled into the lane. This was like 2 o'clock in the morning, by the way. Pulled into the lane I was in, going very quickly. He tapped my leg, forced me to the right, to the curb, and I hit the curb. I couldn't get up. The curbs were like, I would say, a good foot high off the ground. It was just an industrial area. The curbs were pretty high. I hit the curb. It threw me forward. I turned my head just in time to hit a light pole right here, one of these metal light poles. And then I remember being on top of the bike, or sort of wound into the bike, and just in some agony. The pain was really, really bad. I thought I'd broken my back and my shoulders, this kind of stuff, and I just didn't know. I just knew I was in a lot of pain, and I remember laying on my back, and I was like, I just yelled, "Help!" Really loud, and someone helped me, and out of nowhere, these guys were around me, and I opened my eyes up, and one of them was in a denim jacket, and he had an MP5 under his arm, and they told me, "Hey, we're policemen. We're German policemen. We saw the whole thing." And they had I remember looking up in the very beginning and seeing the car go down the road, take a right. And I told them, "Listen, yeah, I saw the car. It took a right." And I still remember this day. It was like a tannish mustard color the car was, and they caught him. They caught him. The cops were there. They were doing a stakeout on something, and they filmed the entire thing. I wish I had that film. I would love to see that, But I remember I was on my back, but my butt was like, the nerves were like flipping my butt around, my butt cheeks around, and I was bouncing, and I was laughing. And they were asking me, "Are you in pain?" I was like, "Yes." And then, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "I don't know," but I was in so much pain. But before they had gotten there, I remember I was sort of like, it seemed like I was on my stomach in the very beginning. Yeah, and I flipped myself over, but my shoulder was like right here. And so I just pushed my shoulder in when I turned over. And then when I rolled back over again, that's when they had arrived, and I just yelled, I screamed to help, It's been a long time, by the way, since that happened. They asked me, you want us to get you to the hospital? I was like, yeah, and then they were like, which one? Because there was the German hospital, and then there was the American hospital in Würzburg, and I could have swore I said the German one, but they sent me to the American one, and it was nothing. I mean, it had so many bad stories about it. I just did not want to go to the hospital, but an ambulance arrived, and that sucker took the dirt road back. I swear to God, I was bouncing around, this kind of stuff, and I was just laying on the gurney in pain, and they got me to the hospital. They wheeled me out, and they put me on another gurney, and they brought me in, and it was the night crew that was there, and it's this piece of shit female specialist. She told me, "Hey, get off the gurney onto that other table." I was like, "What?" I mean, I really got irritated at her. I said, "Don't you realize I was just in an accident and my back could be broken?" And she was like, So I sort of like they pushed the table. She pushed the table closer to the other one, like as if I was going to go up and do it. I slid over. I was in some serious pain, and I could feel it all through my back, lower back, everywhere. And then they did their X-rays, this kind of stuff, and there's no breaks. It was just the shoulder that was out. I didn't even break my clavicle, which I don't know. I guess I had a lot more. I guess I had much more muscle mass. I don't know. I can only wish. But yeah. So I spent the night there. The next day, I was brought to my barracks where I then had to come back down to the hospital the following day, and for sick call, where they then I saw a doctor and all this kind of stuff, and they gave me a profile for like 21 days or something like that for 3 weeks, and then I even ended up going to Frankfurt where some doctor who was I remember he was a full board colonel and he was a neurologist. He put all these probes in my arm, these electric probes, these needles, and he was like zapping me with electricity to see how things were moving, and he goes, well, we're going to have to, he goes, I think this is pretty serious. We're going to have to start processing you for getting medical out of the Army. And I was like, fuck that. I never showed back up. I just went right back, did my 21 days, got off profile, and went back to work, I did have some severe nerve damage in my shoulder, and I did lose some movement, but with lots of just my own personal, getting at it, I managed to get back to being able to do everything as if normal, For a long time, I couldn't lift my arm up very high, this kind of stuff, but I managed it. I just kept at it, my own personal physiotherapy, getting in the gym, working out, doing a lot of PT, this kind of stuff. But I remember during that time, it was probably the first week, I would say, after I'd finished seeing the doctors, a buddy of mine named John, I think it's Tom was his name. He was like on his ETS leave, which is basically the Army gives you like 6 months to sort of spend time in Germany, spend time in Europe, where a lot of guys, they'd buy a Euro pass and they would just travel in Germany, and they decided, it sort of gave them 6 months to sort of like, they didn't have to, they could go back to the States, go where they wanted to go, or maybe even come back in the Army. So I remember, I think it was 6 months, but I remember Tom said, hey man, I'm going to Amsterdam. You want to come with me? I was like, shoot, I've never been to Amsterdam. Let's go, So we got a ticket, and now my arm was still inside the sling. It was sort of attached to me, but we take the train. We had to have special permission first of all, but I was on this leave so I could go wherever I wanted to. But at that time, you still needed permission to go to certain places. So, but anyway, we got that. I think the policy was we had to have a room, a hotel. You couldn't just go there. So we got a hotel, which it's like expensive for two people. It was like $200 for both of us, and for us at that time that was expensive, But excuse me, thirsty. Anyway, so we take the train up there. It was a blast. We get into Holland. This was before the EU and that kind of stuff really was kicking up, because you had to show your passports across borders and all this kind of stuff. And all we had at the time was our military passports. We were showing those, but anyway, so we get to Amsterdam, and it's like it's late in the day. So I remember we get over to our hotel, we check in, we drop our bags, and then we just take a whiz and hit the streets, because there's so much to see there that this country boy at that time had never seen. And that was primarily women in windows, and cafes where they were smoking marijuana and or whatever they were doing, and of course the Rembrandt Museum, which we did see that, but that was the next day while we were waiting to leave. We spent the entire 24 hours on the move, and we slept on the train coming back. But it was an interesting trip for me. Saw a lot of things, did a lot of things, experienced a lot of things for the first time. And I remember having at that time an extremely expensive KFC at $13 a person just to have some chicken and a beverage and whatever, some fries, whatever, But my cats are getting at it over here. He's being a dick. He wants a spot, so he bullies her out of it. And he's bigger than she is now, and she gives in to him. But it was an experience. I mean, seeing the canals. We were on Canal Street, of course. We saw the shows, this kind of stuff, and it would just blew my mind the first time. I remember there was this thing, it's a booth. You put money, you go in, you put money in, you close the door, you put money in, a window raised up, and you watch a show. And I remember I'm sitting there watching this show thinking, damn, I mean, this is like, it's just like crazy. It's something to experience, and I think try to experience the world a bit. But, and somebody just to the left of me had left the door open. The guy turns around, with this big old huge, hog, he turns around yelling at this, whoever was in that room, close the fucking door. I mean, it was like, holy crap, and I thought he was talking to me. I was like freaking out, so I just stopped paying and got out, 'Cause if you didn't, every time you had to put money, it was come down the window would. So I just let it come down. I got out there. I was like, damn, this is too intense for me. I was still a young kid and just freaked out a bit by a lot of all that. But it was an experience. My first time to Holland was to Amsterdam. Later on, I would go back to, of course, the more historical stuff. Go to Nijmegen, Arnhem, Eindhoven, and see the battlefields from Operation Market Garden, which were much more interesting to me later on. And my wife and I, we went back and we saw those places. Also had a great time. Go to Spec, the museum that was there, really nice museum. But it just a completely different ballgame. I've been to Holland several times and always enjoyed my time there. But that first time was really the eye opener for me, as a young man, and I also remember down in Würzburg. Speaking of seeing that kind of stuff, there was a place called 40 Marktplatz, 40 Mark Place, and that's where the girls would be in their little campers, and they would sit in their campers, with the lights on, and I guess you could go up to them and pay and whatever, I always walked near them because it was on the way back from, because we were on the hill above. Leidenberg's on the hill above, then you had the valley with Lengfeld, and this is where Lengfeld was at. And then, matter of fact, this is also the region where I got in my accident I was telling you about before. Also, that relationship didn't work out with that young lady. Her father found out about it and wasn't very happy that she was doing what she was doing with an American boy, especially he was from southern Bavaria and probably old enough to have been in the war. He was not very nice. He didn't like Americans too much. But my time in Germany was uneventful. Lots of things have happened. Lots of things went on. I loved my time in Germany. I remember I just, I did some really cool schools while I was there. Also in the Army, visited a lot of great places with some of my buddies, and of course met my wife, my former wife, there. And saw lots of history. Everything from Berchtesgaden to Nuremberg to Berlin. To Würzburg itself. Würzburg was firebombed by the British in retaliation for the Germans bombing a British hospital, actually. So, and I have another I was teaching English as a second language in Geneva, and there was an older guy I taught, had a classroom, and he didn't like me very much because he blamed the Americans for being there. So for doing the bombing, of Würzburg, and the Americans didn't bomb Würzburg; it was the British. But he just refused to believe that because his family became refugees and then came to Switzerland, which sadly his family became refugees. But he had a much better life in Switzerland because he was doing really well in the company he was in, making lots of money. And he was close to retirement, and at that time, actually, that was 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, 25 years ago. But anyway, you got to find the good with the bad, Anyway, so that was an interesting time in my life around Würzburg. I had a couple of girlfriends while I was there before I met my wife, and it was all fun and games. I just really enjoyed myself while I was there, going down to the Marktplatz in Würzburg and having bratwurst, with some butter, with some mustard on it. and bread, and it's still there. I was there last August with my son, and I dragged him. He said, "This place is not open anymore. It's terrible bratwurst." I went there and I got myself 2 bratwursts. I got him 1, and I was happy. I was happy because they were good. They were still just as good as ever. For him though, it was like, you know. But every German I knew who lived there knows this place actually, and they're famous bratwurst there so they may not be that great, but I like them, you know. Yeah, and my son lives there now, and he's going to university there, and yeah. Anyway, back to Amsterdam. At that time, I advise everybody to go there and have a look. It's a crazy place. But it's a lot of very nice people there, and people who really like Americans still, you know, which is really nice because you don't see that all over Europe. You know, there's a famous story about how there was this old man who arrived at the airport in Paris, and it took him a minute. He'd forgotten to pull his passport out, and the police, the gendarme that was there, or the border patrol officer for the French was there, and he says, "Have you ever, you know?" He goes, "Have you never been to France before? I mean, have you never taken you need to have your passport when you get off the plane ready to go, you know?" He goes, "Well, I've been here before, but you know, we didn't have passports back then, and we didn't need them to get in, you know, to get into the country." And he was referring to the Second World War. I always thought that was a funny story, but at the same time, you know, the French don't always appreciate the Americans. You know, there's something going on there with that also. But and even the Germans the same way. But everywhere else I've been, you know, here in Europe, it's been a blast, and it's been good, and a lot of people do appreciate us. The ugly American, yeah. There's a lot of ugly Americans going on around here, you know, but I've been here for so long. I've been in Europe for more than half my life now, 28 years. 3 years when I was stationed in Germany and 25 years in Switzerland. I'm 52, so I'm just over the limit now. But it's definitely a place I would ask all of you to try to come visit. And if you're a friend of mine, or come visit me, you know, hey, I'd love to have you. I was on the phone messaging a friend from high school this morning, and offering her the chance to come over and visit, you know, and I hope she takes up that offer, you know. My family just don't come over here. I don't know why. I've tried so hard to get my brother to come over with his wife and other family members. My brother Ken did come over, and my parents have been over, and my brother Ken's wife, of course, but that's it, you know. I mean, no one else. You know, I know there's a lot of stuff to do in America. I mean, if I was there, I'd be doing that too. But here in Europe, people ask me, "Why don't you go back to America?" I would love to. It's very expensive, but I can take half that money and enjoy my time here. Also, see other places here, you know. And believe me, I do want to go back to America and visit family and see things there. But my life is over here now. My kids live over here, and I have a life over here. So this is where I'm at. Anyway, I thank you for listening to my blah, blah, blah. And I hope you got something from it or enjoyed it. And I hope to hear from you in the comment section. Please do. Make comments, whether good or bad. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. And I hope you enjoyed my little story. Please, if you liked it, give it a like, a thumbs up, you know, the whole work. Subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank you guys. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you very soon. Goodbye.